Alrighty guys, it is Qaaman here today bringing you a Dragon Ball GT segment. And today's video request is from Black Uchiha 1000, who recently did a Dragon Ball GT review for himself, and he suggested that I actually review Dragon Ball GT on my own. So in today's video, I'm going to review the good, the bad, and the ugly of Dragon Ball GT, which is a series that is hated by a lot of Dragon Ball Z fans, but it is also accepted by a lot of other fans as well. And I also wanted to tell you guys that I'm going to be doing a part 1 covering the Black Star Dragon Ball and the Baby Saga, and a part 2 which covers the Super Android 17 and the Shadow Dragon arc. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into the video. So, when we first watch Dragon Ball GT, we see an awesome training sequence between Goku and Oob. Now this was a great way to start off the Dragon Ball GT series, as it was a pretty interesting looking fight, and it takes place right after Dragon Ball Z, where Goku said that he was going to take Oob to take him to train to become another great warrior. I don't necessarily like the fact that Goku was turned into a child though, as I feel that it took away the seriousness that had existed in Dragon Ball Z, which was a very serious series compared to Dragon Ball GT. And in Dragon Ball GT, Goku was always naked and doing very immature things. Now, when we move on from this, I don't necessarily like the Black Star Dragon Ball plot, because the problem with that is that they just basically came out of nowhere, and I also thought they could have done a better job forming a team that had Goku, Pan, Trunks, Goten, and Vegeta, because we always know that we like to see Vegeta and Goku together at many different sequences. Now, on Planet Eden Mecha, I didn't necessarily like the fact that Pan, Goku, and Trunks were running away from villains who had guns. Villains who were so much weaker than them, they should have no reason to be sneaking around since they're so much more powerful. And the fight with Goku and Legic, although it was interesting and Goku did transform into a Super Saiyan, it basically showed that for the bulk of the early parts of Dragon Ball GT, Goku was holding back. But I do have to say that the fight with Legic was a pretty interesting fight to see, although it was very short-lived, and I also think that Trunks shouldn't have gotten beaten up the way he did, especially since he's a Super Saiyan. But speaking of Trunks, I do like the fact that Trunks did dress up as a girl to basically be Tsunama's wife, because I felt that this was a very, very, very comical point in Dragon Ball GT that the series really, really, really needed, and it did a good job of doing. I also like the Power Brothers too, but I felt that they didn't have a big enough impact in the series. But I didn't necessarily like the fact that Goku, Pan, and Trunks were getting beaten up by worms. These are heroes that can destroy a planet without really trying, and they're getting beaten up by worms. I didn't necessarily like that. Now, moving on, I did say that the Cardinal Muchi Muchi arc wasn't necessarily the best, as I felt that this was a villain that Goku should have fought in Dragon Ball, not necessarily a villain in Dragon Ball GT with all the powers that he has. But Goku's fight with General Rilldo was very, very, very good, and I do like the fact that General Rilldo has the power to basically manipulate the entire planet to his liking, and I felt that this set up the Baby arc for what it gave to the series. Now, Baby as a villain, especially the concept of Baby as a villain, is arguably one of the best in the entire Dragon Ball series. I like the fact that he can go inside of people's bodies and essentially manipulate them, because we've never really seen a villain like this in Dragon Ball up until this point. But I do feel like the execution could have been better. Now, when Baby takes Goten's body, this was a changing moment in Dragon Ball GT because of the fact that Baby Goten could do a lot of damage. And then when he takes Gohan's body, I don't necessarily like the fact that he basically knocked out Piccolo, although Piccolo did survive, because Piccolo didn't help Goku fight against Baby, so it basically made him useless, when Piccolo's a great character. Now, moving on from Baby Goten and Baby Gohan's fight against Baby Vegeta, I felt that this was very illogical, as Vegeta should have easily have stopped both of them without really trying, and Goku's fight against Baby Vegeta was arguably one of the lowest points in the series, because Goku's Super Saiyan 3 powers only lasted for 2 minutes. I know that he's a child, but he shouldn't be able to only fight for 2 minutes at a Super Saiyan 3. Now, Oob made a great appearance against Baby, and I thought he was going to make a much bigger impact in the series. But the very next episode, he was turned into chocolate, and we do see Goku transform into a Super Saiyan 4, which was a game-changing moment in Dragon Ball GT forever. Although it doesn't necessarily make it clear how he transforms into a Super Saiyan 4. Now, Goku's fight against Baby Vegeta has to be one of the highlights of the series, but when Baby Vegeta turned into a gorilla, it basically turned the tide on Goku, and Goku was getting completely beaten up. Now, we see later on that Oob had supposedly survived, even though he was chewed up, even though he supposedly knows how to control his own powers to make him normal again. And we see that this buys time for the others to power up Goku so that he can fight against Baby Vegeta. Now, I do think that an illogical moment takes place after this fight, which was a pretty good fight, although it was very short-lived. I feel that once Super Saiyan 4 Goku had defeated Baby Vegeta, he burns off his tail with his Kai Blast. But I think he should have done this earlier on, where Goku had knocked him out and he was basically just sitting there waiting for him to come up. But after this, we do see that Goku does manage to defeat Baby Vegeta, and this basically ends the first half of Dragon Ball GT, which wasn't that bad, although I think the Black Star Dragon Ball saga could have been significantly better. So guys, stay tuned for part 2 of this video. I'll be right back.